I've been getting blessing after blessing, learning lesson after lesson. I ain't even really stressing on it. I've been trying to get to the money, I've been trying to stay focused, no flexing, I ain't waiting on it. Keep me high up, keep me high up, keep me high up. Roll it up, fire up. I talk to God every day except Sunday. Whoa, I think I have a problem with authority. Ain't it crazy how the struggles make you wanna pray? When I'm okay, we only speak when I'm saying grace. It's a shame, but these days I got a lot on my plate. Salad made it turn my accelerated minimum wage. My dad's heart split and put his.
Hello, I'm Elle, and today we'll be digging into the world of male gymnastics. We will be discussing toxic masculinity, stigmas, and the misconceptions of male gymnasts. We'll be talking to current gymnasts as well as former gymnasts, and through their individual journeys, we will discover exactly why they're powerful. So, hi. So tell me a little bit about your background and how you're still kind of growing up. Yeah. So tell me.
I grew up in a Christian home. I went to church and all that. I played some different sports. I played like some soccer, t-ball, all that stuff. I did the guitar, and I did a lot of things, and it's really all.
That's it. When did you get into gymnastics?
When I was around 5 and 6.
Oh. So who got you into gymnastics?
My parents. I taught myself tricks and I kept breaking my bed.
You kept breaking your bed? You're flipping off of it?
Yeah.
So I'm sure your mom wasn't too happy about that. How did your dad feel?
They said I'd pay for it. Me and my dad built stuff so we could fix it.
So he built your bed again, he fixed it for you? That's really cool. How does he feel about you being in gymnastics?
They're fine with it. It's really the thing I like to do.
Oh, wow. So you made a decision that you were going to be a gymnast?
Yeah.
So do other boys your age do gymnastics at all?
Not really at school, but like some younger people that I've met here, teammates and stuff, they did.
So do your friends at school and stuff know that you are into gymnastics?
Yeah, a lot of people know that, like, they're saying, like, you should do, like, different sports and stuff.
Why do they say that?
Because, like, I can't do 2 sports because of school and stuff. Mm-hmm. And, that's really all just, I can't do 2 sports because my mom wants me to do good in school.
Got it. And so you decided that gymnastics is what you were going to focus on?
Mm-hmm.
What other kind of sports have they said that maybe you should try?
Well, they haven't really said any of those because it's kind of my choice to either quit or keep doing.
Got it. So is there any specific sport that you think of when you hear the word masculinity?
I think of football and like boxing and stuff, because when like you have to be tough and stuff, handle through the pain.
Do you think that masculinity means being tough?
Yeah.
Do you think that being a gymnast is tough?
Well, it depends who is, and like if they have patience and if they put in effort.
Got it. So you didn't say your own sport when you said masculine things. Why didn't you?
Because like gymnastics isn't like the strongest sport. There's like when you lift like heavy weights and stuff, bodybuilders and all that. That's one of the strong. That can be the strongest. And there's like in Europe the lumberjack people.
That lift the really big logs and stuff.
Those competitions.
And you think that that's more masculine than being a gymnast? Have you ever been teased for being a gymnast?
No, not really.
Really? Have you ever heard of anyone else being teased?
No, not for their sport.
So if someone was being teased for being a male gymnast, what would you say to them? What advice would you give?
But I would say that like they're like I did the same thing as them, so like maybe they could go same place I could, and we can compare.
Do you want to continue being a gymnast? Do you think this is something that you'll do for a while?
Yeah.
Because you really like it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you place like your competitions online? Do you have a Facebook page?
No, I don't.
No Instagram or anything like
My
that?
mom posts.
She does. So does anyone say any bad stuff? Or no?
One of my teachers, they watch it.
Your teachers?
Yeah.
So everybody around knows that you're a gymnast?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody supports you?
Most of the people.
That's really cool. What does your dad do?
He's a private investigator for the government.
That's cool. Wow. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Yeah, I have at some parts.
You have been a private investigator?
No, I've wanted to do it in some reasons and some not.
Why not?
Because you get to hear like all sad stories about people.
Yeah. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And so winning medals and doing tricks is cooler, huh?
Yeah.
So Wyatt, I know you have a lot of friends because you seem like a really cool guy. Mm-hmm. Do you think your friends could do the things that you do out there on the floor?
No, not really.
Why?
Because they, like, nobody really at my school does gymnastics besides a person on my team.
Oh, wow. But he goes to school with you?
Yeah.
And so what things does it take for you to be a gymnast?
It takes responsibility to like, you have to have responsibility to go to places and to have your parents not be there and stuff.
Your parents don't come with you all the time?
Well, they take me to meets and stuff, but they kind of leave after practice.
Yeah, it's kind of long, huh? I get that. So what would you say to someone who wants to get into gymnastics? A guy, another guy.
I would say that they would have to put in effort, and they would have to have flexibility to do skills, and you would think that you would be doing all the dumb stuff and not be learning all the cool stuff, but that's when it goes into patience.
Yeah. Now, how has being a gymnast impacted your life?
It's made me in like class I'm like, for my size, I'm really strong for like at school.
Oh wow.
That's really all.
You can like pick up the desk and throw them around and stuff. That's really cool.
Male gymnasts are extraordinary. Growing up, I watched a lot of the Olympics, and mostly male Olympics, just because, first of all, they look superhuman, super huge, super strong, and then they do these superhuman abilities, flipping through the air, doing these crazy skills, and I just think that's so amazing that they physically can do that, and also mentally do that because of the stigma around the sport being a women-dominant sport and being popularized by really women Olympians just because of their bringing home of gold medals. And I think they're not only extraordinary physically, but extraordinarily mentally and emotionally, being able to stay dedicated and hardworking to the sport with the criticism that surrounds it.
Hi.
How's it
How are
going?
you today?
I'm doing pretty darn good.
Cool. So tell me about your background, how you grew up.
So I actually grew up pretty modestly. We didn't have a lot of money, and I remember that it was just myself, my sister, and my mom. And most of the time, we moved around a whole lot.
Yeah.
One of the places that we finally started settling down in, we rented out a basement from an elderly couple. So we lived there for about 4 years. And very soon, my mom put herself through college. She got her dental hygienist qualification, and then she finally got a job that was able to bring a little bit more finally. And then after that, we were able to move into a house. It was wonderful.
Cool.
And from there, I felt like a normal kid finally. And I went to school, went to high school, did all that stuff. I mean, aside from all the gymnastics, things started feeling like a normal life to me. And then obviously I went to college and all that jazz. And here I am.
Cool. So what part of the country was this?
This was in Colorado.
Okay.
So it was, you can imagine what growing up in a basement in Colorado felt like.
Cold?
What? No, yes. Yes.
So you said everything was normal as you started to grow up, but aside from gymnastics.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
Well, put it this way. When I first began as a gymnast, the whole program was 6 boys. I was the oldest, and the second oldest was 5 years younger than me. And the rest were even younger than that. So right off the bat, I was already like the older brother of the group. Other than that, there was no male gymnasts in my entire county.
Wow.
So throughout all of school, I never really had anyone else in my classes that I could identify with or hang out with or do anything like that. So it almost felt like I was disconnected in that sort of sense.
How old were you when you started?
I was 12.
And what made you decide gymnastics?
Well, I'd always wanted to join gymnastics, even when I was younger. The only reason we couldn't is because we couldn't afford it.
Right.
But like I said, when our circumstances finally changed, I finally got the chance to go out and try it. And from day one, I knew, like the second I smelled the dirty socks and shoes walking into that gym and seeing all the chalk flying in the air, I was just like, oh yeah, this is me.
So tell me about the men in your family.
So the men in my family, I didn't, like I said, single mom, like that's what I was growing up with. I didn't know my dad very well. I knew he did visit 1 or 2 of my competitions, but we never really communicated all that much. As far as masculine roles in my family, that would mainly be my granddad on my mom's side. He would usually help take me to and from practice whenever my mom couldn't. And he would sometimes stay and watch too, because he was actually a pretty supportive guy. And most of the men in my family, excluding my father, so my granddad, my uncle, my great-granddad, they were all military types. So they all had some kind of service in the military, whether it be Army, Air Force, or my great-granddad's case, the Air Corps. So, yeah. So we were pretty much a military family growing up.
So your grandfather, how did he feel about you being a gymnast?
So he never really expressed very many opinions about it altogether. I never really got a feel for how he felt. I do know that sometimes during practice, whenever he was watching me, sometimes I go, get water at the drinking fountain. He'd be like, "Hey, I see you're kind of bending here and there." He'd make little corrections and stuff. Trying to coach me a little. Nothing major or anything like that. Just the obvious stuff. So I can tell he was trying to be supportive in it. But he never really said any opinions about it, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
It does. So, did anyone in your family ever try to steer you in the direction of any other sports?
I do know that when I was very young, now this was before I can remember, so this is only going on what people have told me, martial arts. Because my family was also very big into martial arts at the time. In fact, on my dad's side, this is before they got a divorce, my dad owned a martial arts studio, and he was a very gifted coach in that manner. So I do know that I was in the dojos doing little sparring and stuff. I'm not 100%, I'm not certain at all if I had any skill in it, given what can a 2 or 3-year-old do.
Got it.
But had things gone that way, I probably would have been in martial arts.
So the men in your life, how did they influence the way that you feel about masculinity?
Early on, I never really had a thorough concept of what masculinity was all about. The reason for that is because I never really had a strong male presence in my life. As I mentioned, there was my dad, but he left kind of early. There was my granddad, but he more or less kept to himself on a lot of things. So I didn't actually have a very strong male presence in my life. That is until I met my gymnastics coach, who stayed with me for the majority of my career. His name is Kyle. And he was the one who shaped it out very well for me. And the first thing that I noticed about it is he's always so demanding about everything. Point your toes, lock your legs, do this, faster, higher, stronger, whatever. And it kind of shocked me at first, because up to that point, all my coaches had been women trying to teach me basically women's style gymnastics. And so when he came along, suddenly everything was different. I didn't know how to prepare for it. And frankly, there were times where we kind of butted heads here and there. But as time went on, I started realizing what he was trying to do, and then I came around, thankfully. And I realized he was just trying to keep me accountable for myself. And so I think that was the first instance in my life where someone outside of myself or immediate family started shaping my opinion on masculinity. And the first lesson I learned was just self-accountability.
Oh. So from that, what's your working definition for masculinity?
So my working definition, aside from the self-accountability portion, in my opinion, masculinity evolves around leadership. And a lot of people have the wrong idea of leadership. They think that's the person that stands out in front or leads from the front, or the person who stands behind, gives orders, this, that, whatever. In my opinion, the leader is the person who is not only self-accountable, but they're also not only willing, but they're the first ones to take the unfair share of the burden. Being a team player means you take your fair share. A leader of a team, though, takes more than what others take, and they do so intentionally, because that's just the nature of leadership. That's actually one of the things that I teach some of the older boys in our program. So, in my opinion, the definition of masculinity, or at least my definition, is the person who's willing to shoulder more than, well, frankly, more than they bargained for.
So, when you think masculinity, what sports come to mind?
So when it comes to masculinity, I don't necessarily think of whole sports. I think of specific roles in sports.
Okay, explain.
Let's take something like football, for example. So judging by my definition, you have to find the person on the team who's taking the greater responsibility. That'd be the person leading the team. Well, in that case, football, quarterback. A lot of times the quarterbacks are the ones who lead the team. So I suppose football would be a masculine sport in that sense. However, if you're something like the kicker, and you just have your single function, you get on the field, you do your job, you get off, and then you just chill out, I wouldn't call that very masculine. That's more of just show up for a job kind of thing. I feel that in gymnastics, you're shouldering a whole lot of responsibility, and it's hard to put it in a team sort of aspect, because it's an individual and a team sport. However, if you are taking the role on the team as being the role model for younger gymnasts, you're going out of your way to encourage your teammates, you're stepping up and above and beyond yourself, then I would say now you're stepping into a more masculine role. So if you think about it, really any sport could be masculine. It's about the person who can step up and make change, or take charge, or shoulder the unfair burden.
Got it. So, why do you think that people don't consider gymnastics necessarily masculine?
Oh, there's a whole mess of reasons for that. I mean, let's look at the movements. Like, all right, put it this way. One of the best quotes I ever heard was from a former teammate of mine. His name was Chris. And he's one day at the gym, he got super frustrated. He's just like, sometimes I hate this sport. I'm so jealous of football or martial arts. And I'm like, what? He says, because when they have a hard day, they get to clobber someone. It's great. They get a vent like that.
Yeah.
When I have a hard day, I have to point my toes. And I'm just like, yeah, that's true. We don't really have a good way of venting in this sport.
It's true.
So whenever it comes to expressing masculinity in the sport, it's really hard because you make your movements look artistic, which a lot of that, you deal with dance and elements like that.
Yeah.
But the issue is masculine movements don't necessarily use that stuff. A lot of people think they gotta just get that hunched in look and those killer eyes, but no, we have to stay tall, prim, proper, all that stuff. And not to mention the uniforms don't necessarily help either. They have gotten a lot better in the past few years because I've seen some of the shorts that our gymnasts have to wear now. They look almost like normal shorts. Mine were a lot shorter. It was rough, especially when you have to do a split on the floor holding a straight face because people in the audience are just looking at you like, that boy. And I'm just, it was an interesting time. That story later.
Thank you.
That's right. You like the imagery?
I did. So have you personally ever been bullied?
Oh yeah, lots of times.
Really?
Yeah, like I said, I was the only male gymnast within my age range for a good distance. And I experienced a lot of problems growing up. Now, a lot of those problems didn't surface until high school, thankfully. Middle school is just snippy comments here and there from, kids trying to find their place in their cliques and stuff. But by the time high school rolled around, now everyone kind of understood who they want to hang out with, who they want to identify with. And then they realized there's this one dude who kind of didn't really fit in so well within a group. And he liked to point his toes for some reason. I don't know why.
The toe pointing.
Yeah, and the locked legs too, and the tall chin. Maybe he thought I was better than everyone. I don't know. But yeah, I had a lot of problems in high school with that stuff. I think of most of the stereotypical things you can imagine when it comes to high school bullying. The only thing I never had to deal with was getting swirly. My handstand was too strong for that. They couldn't push me down. It was great.
That might come in handy.
It is. It was, yeah.
We should all learn how to do handstands.
Exactly. You don't want to get swirly. Do a good handstand. I did get crammed into lockers here and there. I did get pushed. I did get people trying to start fights with me in and out of school just because they're like, hey, look at this little ballerina kid. And they, try to pick fights with me. I tried to deflect as much as I could. Not always successful. Usually ended successfully, but such is the nature of the sport. But yeah.
Successfully meaning?
I'll let your imagination play that. But yeah, I did experience a lot of different problems in high school in regards to that. And it was rough, but you learn to deal with it.
So, do you have social media?
So I used to be pretty active on social media, actually mostly during college. But I did some time in the military, and I made it a project of mine to get off of social media for security purposes because of what I was trying to do in the military. And I never really got back into it. So it was almost like when you're young, you play lots of video games, boys play lots of video games, but then they get older and suddenly video games aren't as interesting anymore. It's a weird thing. It's like they're growing up or something. I don't know. Same thing kind of happened to me.
So during your time on social media, have you ever posted anything, competitions, you doing gymnastics, any pictures or anything like that?
I used to post pictures of myself at different meets or traveling here and there, or maybe just doing workouts in the gym. I never really did it too much though, because most of the time while I was at those places, at the meets, at gym, I was mainly just focused on doing my thing. It was usually other people that were posting that stuff.
Have you ever received any negative backlash?
I think at that time, this was college, I didn't receive any negative backlash then. I think people were a lot more receptive of it then. And not to mention at that time, I wasn't just some scrawny little tiny kid trying to waddle into a handstand. I was actually, fully grown male, and I actually looked cool. It was nice.
So, I heard you have a leadership company. Tell me a little bit about that.
So in addition to my roles here. So I'm the program director for our gym, and that program is for all the boys. And in addition to that, I host a youth leadership seminar. I haven't been able to do it recently because we've been in our competitive season. We've had a lot of, I'll call them growing pains. We've had so many more boys join the program, more coaches, all that stuff. It's been great. So it's kind of fallen by the wayside a bit, but I'm looking forward to starting it back up once the summer hits. But the youth leadership seminar, or program, I'll call it, focuses around more traditional leadership values that I feel have been more or less lost in today's society. A lot of times it'll have a talk, so each seminar will be like an hour, maybe too long, and I'll focus on a specific person in history. And what I'll do is I'll study about that person, and I'll bring it to a more relatable level to the kids so that they can understand it, and they can understand exactly what that person did. For example, Benjamin Franklin. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, Benjamin Franklin, the founding father, he helped write the Declaration of Independence, he helped, or sign it, or do all this thing, blah, blah, some stove and glasses. Right? But a lot of people don't understand, he was also a very successful entrepreneur in his early days. And frankly, not a lot of people liked him. And I go through many stages of Benjamin Franklin's life and show people this is actually what caused him to change and become who he was in the end. And it's interesting to see that those little changes amounted to a person who is one of the finest diplomats in all of history across the world. And so I kind of show the children that step by step. And I pose little questions here and there and see if they can pick it up, and admirably they pick up on it constantly. Like, kids are really receptive to this stuff. It's crazy. Like, they're a lot smart. Don't ever let a kid make you think they're dumb. They're all smart. Every one of them are smart.
Yes.
It's scary.
So, from you personally, what advice would you give a young gymnast, male, saying that they wanted to get into gymnastics but they were a little discouraged?
I'd say if you want something, go for it. Because you never want to ask yourself the what if question. If you want to try it, try it. Because you might find out that you absolutely love it. You might find out that you hate it, but at least you tried. And if you try it and you find out that you love it, keep trucking. Just keep trucking through it no matter what. Because there's always going to be thick, thin. There's always going to be good, bad. It does not matter. If you love it, you do it, and you keep trucking along.
Wow.
That's what helped me through a lot of it.
Well, thank you. That was really great.
I try.
Watching male gymnasts tumble is amazing. When they do their tumbling pass, it's clear they have a lot of strength because they get so much height. The one word I think of to describe male gymnasts is powerful.
So tell me about you, your background.
Well, I wanted to originally do gymnastics in 4th grade, and I started around 6th grade. And when I started, I was all right at it. I was progressing more than the other kids, and I kind of saw a future in it, so I stopped with my other sports. Because I had originally started with football and basketball, soccer, and all the other sports, baseball. And I eventually got around to gymnastics.
Cool. So, who do you live with?
I live with my mom, my dad, and my little sister.
Cool. Now, how do your parents feel about you being a gymnast?
They feel better about it now than when I started.
You sound like maybe there was a problem before. What
A
happened?
little bit. When I started in 6th grade, my dad was a little hesitant because when I asked to start originally, he didn't really let me because I was doing too much then, all the sports. And I was struggling to keep my grades up and balance life and all that. And I kind of got into it later in life, and I understand it more now.
So tell me about your dad.
Well, my dad he wasn't so supportive about it because of the fact that I was doing multiple sports at the time. I was doing football and basketball, and I was trying to squeeze in gymnastics. And it was just a lot going on, and we had to just slow down and come back.
So you were playing all these other sports. What made you decide on gymnastics?
Gymnastics, it seemed like it was the most fun for me at the time because I was gifted, I guess you could say, in other sports, and I was just going ahead of people, so it got boring. And in gymnastics, I just saw like a lot of older people, doing cool tricks, and I was just like, oh, I want to do that.
Do you consider gymnastics masculine?
I do now.
Okay, where did that come from?
When I was doing football and other stuff, I didn't really consider it a masculine sport. I was just looking at it like it's mostly a girl sport. But now that I do it, I consider it more masculine than other sports.
Wow.
Because when like other kids in my schools and stuff, and they'll be like, you don't really do much, and like track run, I'll be like, all right, let's race. I'll beat them at their own sport. So I just feel like gymnastics just can teach you a little bit more than some other sports can.
Mm-hmm. So how would you define masculinity?
Masculinity would really just be how you carry yourself. Like if you're a good person, truly, and if you just want to work hard and go far with your life, then that's a pretty masculine person to me.
So where'd you get that definition from?
From my coaches, my dad, and family around me.
So when you think of masculine sports, what sports come to mind?
Football, basketball. It's just the average sport that you see most guys in, the big main sports.
So because you see most guys in it, is that why it makes it masculine? Or
I mean, there's just more publicity to those sports. Like, there's no really gymnastics. All you have is the Olympics. That's all you have. And basketball and football, you have like different associations and stuff like that, televised, all of that type of stuff. So it's just more available to the public. So that's why they consider it masculine.
Now, are you on social media at all?
Yes.
Have you ever posted that you're a gymnast
Yeah.
on social media?
I post a lot of gymnastics videos.
Really? And so do you get more positive feedback or negative feedback?
It's mostly positive.
Have you ever gotten anything negative?
Yes.
And how'd you react?
I didn't really care because at the end of the day, everyone has their own opinion, and I can't get mad at you for making your own opinion on me.
Yeah. Has it ever upset you at all?
Well, when I was starting out, I got made fun of in class, and it hurt me a little bit. I was a little emotional. But when I got to like 7th grade and then I got a little older, I just thought about it and I stopped caring. And I just told them, like, at the end of the day, I kind of get more girls than you. So.
More girls. So the girls like it.
Yes.
So does everyone around, like your friends and everyone, do they know that you are a gymnast? Is that something that you kind of tell everybody?
I don't really tell them, but they usually figure it out and they'll talk to me about it.
So do you see yourself continuing with gymnastics?
Definitely.
Like a career?
I want to. Right now, I just want to go to college and finish up in college and then come back and coach gymnastics.
That's really cool. So if there were someone who were younger than you, what would you say if they wanted to get into gymnastics?
I'd tell them just don't really worry about what other people say because you get so far off of other people and you really have to just believe in yourself.
Is that something that's impacted you? Is that what you've learned?
Yes, I just learned I'm my best friend and my worst enemy, so I just have to get better and grow by myself before I can, help other people.
Now, what are some things that you would say make a good gymnast?
A good work ethic and a drive and passion for the sport.
Got it.
The first word that comes to mind when I think of a male gymnast is sexy. Being married to a male gymnast has been an incredible experience, seeing all the cool things that he can do with his body and all the fun things he can teach other people to do with their bodies, as far as balance and agility and tumbling and flips and all kinds of different things. It's incredible to see somebody be able to really push their body to its limits, and encourage other people to do the same thing.
So tell me about your background.
What can I say? I grew up in Romania, and I have over 15 years of experience in gymnastics as a performer. And after that, I started coaching as an assistant coach. And as soon as I finished college, I started just, coaching for good. And now I have about 8+ years of experience in that.
Wow. So tell me about your family, how you grew up. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do have, obviously, both of my parents. I have a brother that's 5 years older than me. He has nothing to do with any sports or anything like that. I was the only child that, ended up going to gymnastics or any sport whatsoever.
So how do your parents, specifically your father, how does he feel about your career in gymnastics?
My father was also a sportsman. He was a professional boxer for multiple years, and he was always very competitive. We never chose gymnastics. Gymnastics it just happened. We never picked gymnastics. We never, aimed towards it. It just happened. But he always had a bunch of support towards any sports or any physical activity. He was always supportive of.
Got it. So at what point did you come to America?
I came to America as soon as I finished college in 2011.
And how has your background in gymnastics in Romania differed from your current gymnastics career here in America?
What was the difference?
Yeah.
Well, in Romania, I was a gymnast myself, and as soon as I moved here, I was just coaching, and I was not a performer anymore. That's probably the major difference.
Now, in Romania, is gymnastics considered a masculine sport?
I would say more than the United States. You would not be pointed at by being a male gymnast. For example, I grew up in Romania with a bunch of friends of mine. We were all part of gymnastics. We were always looked as the cool kids. We were not looked at, oh, you were girly or you were doing something that a girl should do. The mentality was not like that at all.
Oh, so give me your definition of masculinity.
My definition for masculinity would be courageous, like having courage. Also, being strong. Also, just being motivated and staying focused to your point so you can finish what you start.
Is that something that you gained from your background?
I believe so.
Do you consider your father to be masculine?
Yes, I do.
And you gained that definition from him?
Not necessarily. I kind of based it on my own personal experiences.
Got it. Why do you feel that it's looked at as more feminine of a sport here in America?
I think it's the numbers are way bigger. The majority, is just more kids, more girls are involved into this just because in the past, couple of years or the past 2 Olympic cycles, U.S., was always obtaining great results, always stepping up on a podium, and I think social media and television and all this been putting this out, so the kids are just trying very, very hard to reach for that.
Oh.
So that's my pure opinion, thinking that, kids want to have what they see on TV.
True. So why do you consider yourself the masculine man?
Because I opened the door when I let my wife step in the vehicle. Because I have the need of comforting my spouse because I have the need of protecting my spouse. So I think that's what masculinity actually is, taking care of
So if
others.
you were to give me a working definition for masculinity, what would that sound like?
It would pretty much sound the same like I just said, just obviously being strong, but I think helping others, helping the weaker, or helping just taking care of the other people's needs, I guess. That would make you masculine.
And that definition, did it come from your father, your experiences? Where'd you gather that definition?
I think just from my personal experiences in life.
Wow. So your wife, she's a gymnast as well?
No, she is not.
She's not? So how did that relationship begin? Where did that come from?
That's
How'd you
actually
meet her?
funny. I was training her little cousins
Oh,
in
wow.
gymnastics, so that's how we ended up meeting. So everything started rolling from that point. But yeah, that's how we met.
Now, what's her take on you being a gymnast? I'm sure you were already a gymnast when you met her, but what's her take as opposed to other careers that you could have chosen?
I think she's actually excited. I think she actually enjoys this, and she found something different in me being a male gymnast, I guess.
Oh, wow. So she found something. It looks different. It sounds different. It is different.
Unique,
I
complex.
like that. So what sports pop into your mind when we say masculine?
I would think of maybe soccer, just because I grew up with soccer being a very popular sport. In Romania, we never had girls team for soccer, so that's probably one of the things that pop up in my mind. But besides that, I would say football, something that is full contact, something that has, like an MMA or boxing or something like that. That's what pops in my mind when I'm thinking about masculinity. Even though nowadays it's a bunch of girls and a bunch of ladies taking part of it too, but that's just the word, just the sport that pop in my mind when I think of it.
So any advice that you would give another male who wanted to become a gymnast, wanted to get involved with the sport, what would you say?
Advice? To be patient, I would say. Just because the kind of skills that gymnastics requires, you would need a lot of time to become a male gymnast. You don't just come into a gym and you already a gymnast. That's just not how it works. It's not like you getting a membership to Planet Fitness and you already a member. It's not like that. Over here you would have to put a lot of time. You have to dedicate a lot of your spare time just to put into training. So I think it's that would be my advice, to just be patient and insist on the skills that they want to learn, because time, it's the mother of learning.
Okay, so tell me about yourself.
So my grandma and my mom both did gymnastics when they were younger, and my sister started gymnastics, so I used to play soccer, so I once came to pick her up from gymnastics, and I watched everybody do it, so I just felt like it was just a thing for me. So I started, and then when my little sister came along, she also wanted to do gymnastics, looking at me and my big sister, and it was just a click for all three of us.
A click. That's really cool. So tell me about your dad.
My dad is a paramedic, and he works for EMS, and he has work every other week, like this trades from Monday and Tuesday, and then Friday and the weekend, and then the next week it would be Wednesday and Thursday, and then he's off the rest of the week. And he just grew up with me, and he met my mom at a Nephilim place. That's a band that my mom always listened to, and she's friends with all of them. So they met, and then my grandma just liked him,
So your mom was a gymnast
Yeah.
when she met your dad, okay? And then how does he feel about his son being a gymnast?
He likes me being a gymnast because he likes watching me and doing all the stuff that I can do, and he likes teaching me how to do all types of this stuff.
Does your dad do gymnastics too?
No, he's not a gymnast.
It's kind of hard, right?
Yeah.
So has he ever tried to push you to do any other sports or anyone in your family?
My cousin used to try to push me to do baseball because me and my dad would throw a football all the time, and she would be like, "Oh, you have a great arm. You should go be a pitcher for baseball or something." And my dad has also pushed me. Well, my dad and my grandma, they've said like I'll be good at wrestling because I'm small and agile.
Yeah. So what made you decide on gymnastics?
Basically, I thought it would be a good, like a good thing in my life besides just sitting on a couch watching TV for the rest of my life.
But you said that you played soccer too, right?
Yeah.
So what made you choose gymnastics over soccer?
Soccer got really boring.
So what makes gymnastics so fun? Why can't everyone be a gymnast?
Because gymnastics is fun because you get to experience different types of things, like all types of different events and all types of skills. And soccer, you don't really get any skill in it. It's just basically you kick a ball into a goal and score.
So when you think of masculinity, what sports come to mind?
I thought that it's football and probably a little boxing.
Boxing? Have you ever tried boxing?
Yeah, I have tried boxing, and I don't really like to talk about it because my sister beat me. So,
it's kind of not that cool, right? I get that. So why didn't you say gymnastics?
Because gymnastics, you don't really have to, like,
Okay. You can keep talking.
I'm trying to think. Gymnastics isn't really one of those sports where you, like, in football you get hit a lot by all types of other things, and in football you wear like protective stuff, and for boxing you try to hurt other people. In gymnastics you don't try to hurt other people, you just try to get the best you can.
So how would you describe masculinity?
I would describe it as basically how much you do in a certain thing, and how much effort you put into it.
So if you're doing a lot with gymnastics and you're trying to hurt other people with other sports, then why are those things considered masculine in gymnastics? Not.
Because like if there's not really a big reward for gymnastics. Like you just get stronger. It's kind of a reward, but not much. But for boxing, like you get a big reward if you win, like a giant belt or something. And for football, if you win the Super Bowl, it's a really big award that you get that you keep in your stadium, and you get rings and stuff.
Do you know any other male gymnasts?
Not at my school, but I know a lot of male gymnasts from my teammates and a lot of Olympic gymnasts.
Do any of your friends and your classmates know that you are a gymnast, and how do they feel about it?
Most of my classmates know that I do gymnastics, and they're always like, "Oh, you should do this, you should do that," randomly, and especially in gym class, because they're always like, "Oh, you should do that in the field," or something like that.
You get to do all the tricks. You get to be the cool guy.
Usually.
Have you ever been bullied for being a gymnast?
Maybe once I got like picked on or something, like someone saying that I was like too short for it, too small.
Wow.
or something like that.
How did that make you feel?
I didn't really care.
You didn't really care?
Mhm.
Because you know that you're
Yeah.
stronger. So what does it take to be a gymnast? Why can't everyone do it?
Because you have to be flexible,
Mhm.
and you have to be really strong, and you have to like get the basics down for gymnastics.
Mhm.
But for like basketball, all you have to do, like, usually there's no basics to it. Just play.
So if there were someone, a guy, who wanted to be a gymnast, what advice would you give to them?
I would say to be respectful and responsible for going everywhere when you need to,
Mhm.
and to not play around when you actually need to put effort into the sport the gymnastics. That's basically.
Is that so? Do you have social media? Instagram?
My mom does. She has Facebook and all that stuff.
Oh, does she? Now, does she post any of your videos online?
She posts a lot of usually my sisters, but she has some stuff of me.
Mhm. How would you respond if someone said mean things about you on social media?
I honestly wouldn't care. I'll probably inform my parents about it, like just tell them that this happened, blah blah,
Mhm.
and that I just wouldn't react that way. I would just keep on making my life better than them.
So, give me some qualities that make a good gymnast.
Strong, athletic, active,
Mhm.
strong. Have I already said that?
Yeah, it's okay. Extra strong.
Yeah. Smart, and they can like remember everything that they need to do. They have to have like good form and technique for gymnastics,
Mhm.
because if you don't have form and good technique in like the competitions,
Mhm.
you'll have really bad scores, and
You won't win, right?
Yeah.
So, how has being a gymnast impacted growing up? And do you see yourself being a gymnast in the future?
I do see myself being a gymnast in the future, and it has helped me grow up, because basically I get advice from a lot of my teammates about this, about really colleges and stuff, and just about school sometimes.
Mhm.
And I think it's affected me from growing up, because I actually have something to do rather than just go to school, come back home, and then play games or do other stuff. And I'm actually getting active
Mhm.
and doing things.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Hester, one of the owners of Countryside Gymnastics. The other owner is my husband, Jack. We organized it in 1988 out at Cedar Creek, North Carolina. The room that we started in was about the size of 2 classrooms. It was only large enough to hold 4 primary pieces of equipment: vault, bars, beam, and 2 strips for a floor. The height of the ceiling was so low that the gymnast could not do a handstand on top of the bar. That was our beginning. In 1989, we realized that we needed a larger place, and we needed to be in the city. We needed to be where there were more children to take access to the program and things like that. We started the program because we saw and felt a need for the program for youth in this area, and specifically on this side of town, which is the north side of Fayetteville, North Carolina. We are located at 330 MacArthur Road here in Fayetteville. During that time, we wanted to offer something that would be beneficial to both girls and boys. And that's how we got started. Our oldest child was actually already involved in gymnastics, and we wanted to pursue that for the youth in the community. We started with approximately 30 children when we moved here in 1989. In other words, we had several more children in the program, probably about 50, but by the time we made the move from Cedar Creek to Fayetteville, we lost probably about 20 of those children. So we started here with about that many. There was never a question of whether it would be for boys and girls, because if you're doing something that involves the community, you want it to be for boys and girls. One of the things also with the sport of gymnastics is it is more girls involved. However, as of today, we have approximately 100 plus boys in our program. We have been doing this for a period of 31 years coming this May. And one of the other things that was asked of me about getting the program started, why did we want to do it? And of course, like I said, we saw the need for it, and offering something that would involve youth after school. Why was 1988 a good year? That was the year that he retired from the military. He put in 20 years in the military. I was also teaching school. So a lot of the things that we did in the gym were related to teaching. I have a special feel for people who help children because I always felt that my teachers helped me a tremendous amount when I was growing up. And that made helping children easy for me. At that time, I had been teaching since I graduated from college, which was probably close to 20 years. But one of the other things is, you hear the term that behind every good man, there's a good woman. I also like to say behind every good woman, there's a good man. So I think that's important that we were able to work together, and we still do that every day because it's important, and because we are affecting children, and we're affecting families, and we want to provide a positive image for everybody that we come in contact with. My biggest interest is in the children. We're not just teaching them gymnastics, which is, I know, something that a lot of times you think it's all about gymnastics. It's really not as much about gymnastics as it is about life itself, because you're teaching them how to live, you're teaching them how to get along with others, you're teaching them how to work together, and these are all things that they're going to need in their daily lives. I love children. I don't know if it's because I grew up in a big family or not. There are actually 10 of us, and in the process of that, there were 3 girls and 7 boys, and so there was never a question about whether we would have boys in our program. As long as boys wanted to be here, we wanted to have them here, so that's very, very important. Also, I think trying to create a family atmosphere for the families also helps as well. And what I mean by creating a family atmosphere for the families, there are many families that come to the gym when they're very, very young, and they've stayed through elementary school, through middle school, through junior high, and we have a few that have stayed all the way through high school. In the process of all the different things that we've done in the gym and working with people, there have also been 3 people that have worked with us that literally own or run their own gymnastics business in other states, as well as 2 in the state of North Carolina. So that's something else. The people that are involved in our program range from high school students through adults, with us being the oldest 2 in the program. But that's something that I think is important for people to know. We just want you to be able to work together with other people, and to be able to get along, and to be able to make sure that the children are having joy and having fun. I really never thought of gymnastics as being a sport that was in the minority until I learned different things from Carmen, who's actually helping us with the documentary. But I learned from her some of the things that had happened to her. I never thought about it that way for the boys. Our goal for them was to be able to have them participate in the program, be the best that they could be, and still do that without even realizing that there could be a problem. And I think that has worked for us. One of the questions that was asked was it easy getting started? It was not easy. My husband said it was very difficult getting started, but he said our will to survive, to strive, and be successful outweighed the will to be defeated. Okay, the gymnasts themselves have the opportunity to travel and compete, not just in the state of North Carolina, but other states as well. We are located in Region 8, and that means that we compete against 8 different states. And those states are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Louisiana. Okay. And when they're competing against those 8 different states, those are the states that are in our region, but when they're competing against those different states, it's just fascinating. It's wonderful. It gives the boys and girls an opportunity to know that they are competing against the best in their state, the best in their region, and beyond that, they also have an opportunity to go to nationals. When they go to nationals, they're competing against either half of the United States or the whole United States. Over the years, we've had gymnasts that have gone to state, regionals, nationals, and even been a part of the TOPS program. So these are some of the opportunities that children have when they're participating in these programs. Our goal is to continue to build a stronger relationship with the community, and to do that with more involvement from the youth in our area.
I hope that you've enjoyed this journey as much as I have. And I hope that we've debunked your misconceptions and your stigmas about male gymnasts. To all young men watching this, don't be afraid to step outside the box and pick something that may not be considered as masculine from others. Because either way, you're powerful.